Hi everyone, this is Scott with The Art of Planning, and I wanted to do a quick video on how you can implement project management strategies using my planner. I don't intrinsically force any kind of project management philosophy into the planner. The planner pretty much assumes that you know what projects you want to work on and you know what deliverables you want to act on and complete and when you want to do it. I did that intentionally because there are so many project management strategies out there, and I want this planner to be sort of agnostic and absorb and allow all of them and not advocate for a single one. Now, in future videos, I may go into what project management strategies I've used in the past and am using now and what's worked and what hasn't. But for this planner, I'm pretty much saying you know what you want to do and you just want the perfect tool to put it all down and track it. So I'm going to try to zoom in here. This is a very simple Gantt chart of a project. This is a fictional project, but it's very close to one that you might implement if you're in some sort of product development role, software, or insurance, which is a big part of my background. You can see the top row is dated. It goes from February to July, and I break down the quarters. And then going down the left sides, the first two columns, you've got actual components that make up the project, the phases and the what I'd call tasks or subtasks on the second column. And that gets more specific into what actually goes into those phases. Varying lengths, varying levels of overlap. A lot of times tasks that overlap do so because they involve different teams. And also a lot of times overlapping projects don't rely on each other, so there's no dependency there. And when that's true, there's no issue at all with doing them at the same time. But I've kind of gone too far into Gantt charts and how they work, because the point of this video is really to show what does this translate to in terms of your year view, month view, and week view, because when you're trying to figure out what you actually want to do on a year basis, month basis, and day-to-day basis, you want to be able to look at your day. You don't necessarily want to look at each individual project. So let's start with the year view. We looked at the project and we saw that this is meant to pretty much wrap up within a year. So it starts in late Q1 and ends sometime in Q3. And so I have drawn a border around when the project's supposed to start, February 27th, and when it's supposed to end, July 10th. And I kind of modified the project's goals section. I am a huge advocate of modification when you get this planner. Once you get some experience using it, you may find that you want things to be a little bit different than how I designed them, but there's room for that modification. I have put when the project starts, when it ends, small description of the project, and I've numbered each row. So in this format, I actually may not make use of the checkboxes, or I might. When the project's finished, I might check it off. I'm not sure. But with this format, this can now be delineated as project 1. So if I've got a bunch of projects going on this year, I can have a project 1, a project 2, project 3. What this allows me to do is, going forward for all of the months and weeks, I can always refer to this as project 1 if I want to. And I even could write somewhere in here that this is project 1. I could write a 1 right there or whatever. Now we're turning to the month view. I've got February open now, and I'm showing when the project starts. The project starts February 27th. So again, a border. With this border, I'm referring to it on the first line. In the year view, same thing. With these borders, I'm referring to it on this line. So I'm tying these together. They aren't just borders without references. So that's something you could continue throughout. Another thing that you'll notice is that I use pencil for this demonstration, but also often I use pencil. And the reason for that is any of us who are project managers who work with a bunch of different teams know that timelines can be very tentative, depending on all of the tasks that were supposed to be completed up to that point and so on and so forth. Timelines can change. The length of time you're given to complete a task can change. I have these little handy mechanical pencils that are small. They fit in my pocket. They're just a few inches long, and they're from Pilot. I don't get paid to advertise these, but these are very handy. I buy them in packs on Amazon. I think it was a pack of 12 originally. While I'm throwing things in front of the webcam here, These little pocket-sized journals, I don't currently sell my own version of them, but I may in the future. These are great. These are just blank lined, very thin journals that come in a pack of 6 and are pretty cheap, $8 or so. And the great thing about these is that they're so thin. They're about 60 sheets of paper. They're so thin that you can actually hook the pencil to them. So it's this perfect little handheld combo that you can put in your pocket. Also, though, you know where you can fit these? You can fit these in this back pocket here that each planner comes with. The pencil would be tricky, but the journal itself fits perfectly. And a buyer of this planner actually pointed this out to me. While I don't have a pin holder, there's actually a little slit between the binding and where the pages are where you can actually perfectly fit a, whatever this thing's called. Okay, back to the project. I've written, if you can see, a little descriptor for this bar, and I'm calling it Project Charter. This is the first task of this project, which is expected to go from February 27th to March 4th. And I am noting it here. Project Charter starts on the 27th. It goes through to March, so I'm going to just continue the bar. I have drawn an arrow to signify that it continues to the next month, so you don't think it ended. Okay, now March it gets a little hairier. Now we've got a few tasks going on. Project Charter continues, but we also had Plan Review start, and Plan Review started on the 1st. Now here's the conundrum that a lot of people are going to face. Do I make 2 bars now? Because I still got Project Charter going, but I've also got Plan Review going. I elected to not do that. The reason is, you'll see there are times that you've got 4 or 5 tasks all going at the same time, and you'd be forced to make 4 or 5 bars stacked on top of each other in that case. And if you did that, you'd kind of have half of a day filled with bars just for this project. A lot of us project managers are keeping tabs on multiple projects each day. So we don't want to fill up half of a square of an entire month or week or whatever on these projects. That doesn't give us room to put in some other stuff. What if I also want to put in that I'm going to go to the gym today? So I want this to be as collapsed as possible. So you see what I do here. I only use 1 bar and I say Project Charter, and next to it I have a C there. That means it's continued. And Plan Review, I've got an N, and that means it's new. So what this bar now means, this bar no longer just means it's Project Charter, continued from the month before. It now means that it's a combination of Project Charter and Plan Review. And these were both set to end on the 4th. Whereas to indicate that something was continuing, I did an arrow. I'm now doing a thick bar here to signify Project Charter and Plan Review are both finished. Now on the 4th, a new one starts, Initiation, and I'm still using the 1 next to it to indicate this is Project 1. I'm not delineating in any way that it's Phase 1 or saying this is Task 1, 2, or 3, etc. I'm being pretty basic in saying all of these are just tied to Project 1, which is new product rollout. So Initiation starts on the 4th, goes all through that week, and it ends on the 13th, and you can tell that it ends because I've got the thick bars on the end there. And guess what else ends on March 13th? Phase 1, the entire phase. We've got these 3 phases here. The last task of Phase 1 being Initiation ends on March 13th. So I've got a border there, and I'm notating in here in the project's goals section that Phase 1 is supposed to be completed. This is, just like all of this is optional, but it's something that I chose to highlight in my project's goals section. Now we start scope plus goal setting. That starts on the 13th, goes. Now here I am collapsing 2 tasks into 1 bar. I'm collapsing scope and goal setting, which is still going. So I've got the C there for continued. And I'm introducing work breakdown structure, which is starting on March 20th. So now this bar indicates that there are 2 tasks going at the same time. Scope and goal setting and work breakdown structure. All through this week. And I'm going to introduce a new set of tasks here because we've got a few new tasks, all starting on the 27th. Budget, Gantt chart, and risk management are all set to start on March 27th. Having these be two separate bars allows me to end scope plus goal setting, work breakdown, and Gantt chart all on the 31st, which is when they're set to end, and still keep budget and risk management going. Keep it at 2 bars. I've got the arrow here signifying it continues into the next month. And I'm not going to go through this month, but I follow the same structure. I'm collapsing bars. I've got April 3rd delineated here because it's the end of phase 2. And then we go into May. Things are starting to calm down a little bit because we're in phase 3. And phase 3 is really just tracking. And so we just have a few tasks going on. And they continue through June. One of them ends in June. And now in July, we're finished. So I am going to delineate July 10th with a border and say, hey, July 10th is a great day. It's a magical day. We're finished with not only phase 3, but our entire project. Now, the great thing about doing these in pencil is if we weren't actually ready to start phase 3 when we were supposed to, I think that's right here. Say we got delayed somewhere upstream of this, I could easily erase this up to like here and say, okay, we're starting on the 15th. And I don't have to change that much. And I don't have to cross a bunch of stuff out. And I know it's not as pretty as using bullet journal markers. And I love using bullet journal markers. But you're sacrificing the aesthetic value for functionality. And as project managers using these planners, we want it to be functional. We want it to actually serve our needs. So I would say the best use of bullet journal markers is probably for things that you are reflecting on. You're writing about something that has already happened, or you're brainstorming, which you can use the free notes section, of course, to brainstorm, or you are writing some plan that is not going to change, which that last one is rarely true in the project management space. This work that we've done will very easily translate to the week views because you can now say, okay, well, the Gantt chart is supposed to start on March 27th. I should probably block out some time a couple weeks out from wanting to start. Do I have everything I'm going to need? Is there anyone I need to reach out to? Are there any tools that I need? Is there any information I need that I don't have yet? If that's my main deliverable, then I need to start working that into my daily schedule around. I'm sure you've also got meetings and things like that you'd have in here too. So you're able to find in the week view those blocks of time that you can use to make sure you're ready to do that Gantt deliverable and have it done when it's supposed to be done. Now we're at the week where we're actually starting on the Gantt chart, so you can find your free blocks of when you can work on this Gantt chart that everyone's counting on you to complete. So that's how the week view can very easily be populated given the year and month view work that you've done. And if you're a project manager and your job is to just make sure everything's going smoothly as it should, maybe write in, I need to check in with the person doing the Gantt chart because I want to make sure things are going well. Do you have everything you need? Is there someone who needs to get you something that's not being responsive? So you can be not a micromanager, but a helpful manager and give your employee everything they need to be successful on this project. So I hope this has been useful for you. Sorry it wasn't pretty. If you can find colored pencils that erase easily, by all means use those. I've not been lucky finding those myself. And if you do, then reach out to me and let me know what you use. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you, and happy planning.